3, 6, 7. Joanne is with us. There we go. Okay. John. Uh, 3, 6, 7. Joanne is with us. There we go. Okay. John. Good evening, everyone. This is Beach Advisory Committee, and we have 7 members present, but let me just do a roll call. Kate Bauer-Burke,
Here.
John Dykstra,
Here.
Joanne Guston,
Here.
Jim Mulvihill, and Jim, I understand, is going to be absent tonight. Carol Sherman,
Here.
Jen Wasserman,
Here.
Mike Weston.
He was present. I'm sure he'll be returned.
Okay, and I'm here. Richard Driver. All right. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the December 17th minutes. Can I have a motion?
I move that we approve the minutes of December, the draft minutes of December 17th meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
As is our usual practice, we open the meeting to the public for any items that are not on the agenda. Dave, are there any hands up?
I don't see any right now. Maybe we'll give them a minute.
Sure.
If you have an issue, please raise your hand, members of the audience. I see no blue hands.
Okay. So let's move on. An update on the issue of the dune grass on the west end, and I understand, Carol, you and Kate met with representative from Rachel Carson to discuss the issue.
Yes.
And Carol, I know you sent a summary. Do you want to?
Remember that the original questions.
So,
It off,
Not really the space for it.
yes, in fact, that was the initial plan. And we all looked at different places at the West End, and there was no area that we found to be acceptable. We went, every one of us went around and tried to find a place, and it was either would be on the Bayless's property, it would be where the plovers were, it would be where the dune grass is supposed to grow back, or it would be in the marsh. And that was our original plan, as that is what we would do. But it
Jen, all of us were down there to inspect it at one time. There earlier, and I've been there. Kate's been there. John's been there. Of course, Carol is just close by. Has been there any number of times. So individually looking at the situation, there really is no place for a rack there unless it was on the Bayless property. And we don't know where the kayaks are coming from. So is it people who are just pulling up at the end of Kings Highway and offloading and putting it up there, or are they coming over? It's hard for me to believe that they are coming over from the campgrounds, because how do they get home if they leave their kayak there?
I can see a day storage, but not overnight from the campground.
Yeah, but what Carol has documented is not day storage.
Right.
No.
The sign should say anything about.
sort of difficult, but I think we have to do that. But they're going to put their sign. Remember when we walked down there, there was the marker that you saw, and then as you face that, put it on their Rachel Carson sign. So you're not going to be able to see that from the street.
So I thought that was the only sign. Are we proposing adding an additional sign that we would create?
Rachel Carson and we are going to work independently, but in cooperation is the best way I can think of how to describe it.
Okay, so, but I know we were going to do the staking, but we're also going to put a sign.
I'm afraid that's right.
Well, then I think that sign ought to say, please, you're welcome to use, but it has to be a portage, has to be carry in, carry out.
Carry in, carry out.
Yeah, I
Doing
think-
a sign, adding a sentence to that, it wouldn't be a bad thing. I mean, if you have to do a sign, and Rachel Carson's sign won't cover what we're wanna.
No.
That is exactly right. So,
to put it at the beginning of the path where the dog leash, I guess where the dog leash sign is.
And the main beach sign is there too.
mhm.
Is it just our main, the standard beach sign, yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to further on where
Right.
of the right of way.
Right.
So
But that's where people would be coming in with a kayak and it just says, please go out with the kayak. So
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Or move them down to the east end.
Yeah.
With kayak racks.
Yeah.
Say something, kayak racks, storage racks available at whatever that is,
Yeah.
Edge, wherever that area.
Rockridge, there's, 8 of them, so, yeah.
Yeah.
so
Um,
can I have a motion to recommend to the town that we put a sign on the town's right of way path from the end of Kings Highway?
And also, let's include in that also do stake and twining on the town's right of way. Because we need we're saying we need their approval for that too.
Yes.
Well, yeah,
Combine it in one motion.
okay.
Yeah, I think that.
Well, we have on the agenda the staking and twining when on the
Or,
prohibiting the overnight storage of,
And there isn't, you can't put it on town people that this is town property and the kayaks cannot be left and inviting them to portage in and out.
okay, so we're going to move that we recommend to the Board of Selectmen that the town place a sign at the access point to the west end of at the west end of the beach, reminding people that there is no kayaks may be left there.
Correct. And we can work, it's really hard. We're doing
ours.
this, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
just permission
That's coming later, right?
later, because I guess you're going to do
It doesn't
some
matter.
stake and twining in the west end.
Try to this year, whatever is not, yeah.
Okay. Is a motion to recommend to the selectmen that we place a sign at the beginning of the right of way at the end of Kings Highway, dealing with kayaks. Is there a second?
Second,
Ready? Kate,
Aye.
John,
aye.
Joanne,
Aye.
Carol,
Aye.
Jen,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay. So the next item is the dune staking, and who wants to address that?
Elizabeth. Oh, wonderful. Well, I'm happy to, but I think that, my only thought is, I think it did try and address the problem. And I think this year, since it works so well on the east end, we may need to extend it, work with other areas that have dune protected. But we need a lot more manpower on this.
I think
Well,
you're
what if-
diluting your manpower if you do that.
Yeah, what day, do we have a date for the spring cleanup?
No,
No, we
that's
have
on the agenda, Jen.
We have to figure that out.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we could,
One question is, are we gonna join the two projects and try and get, super manpower to do, some people will be staking and twining while other people will be, cleaning up lobster pots and whatever else we do then. We're not doing a ton of, this is not one of those cleanups where we're getting at invasive species and stuff like that, correct?
No, it's just we can talk about whatever we want, but I was thinking just, trash pickup, and there's a lot.
Yeah, if it's just trash, then you can't ask people to come out too many times, especially in the spring.
Well,
I think you're
I
gonna
had-
get one shot at a number of people, at a large number.
I had always assumed it was invasive species that I was, gonna get my annual attack of the bittersweet, but
Well, that's,
My arch enemy.
but somehow I think that takes a couple dedicated people as opposed to a crowd, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah,
that's tough
I
work.
like doing that. Yeah, well, if it's trash, maybe then, yeah, a combined, combined could work. You can try to gear up a whole lot of people.
Would
I
that
love
mean
Mike's idea.
scheduling it for 2 days as opposed to one? Because in the past, sometimes that dumpster that the town provides is full, which means that, there's a lot of stuff that is being taken off the beach.
Last time we did it, I think we had 2 dumpsters and they were left there for a week, so people continued to fill. And I think it wasn't, their trash. I think they continued to clean up beach as stuff showed up. So I think it was very effective.
So if you're going to merge the two, do we schedule it for a 2-day period?
We could do, a Saturday, Sunday, or we could do a Saturday rain date Sunday. I don't know what you guys recommend.
Well, in that case, do we try and get people and do maybe either do both and both types of operations on the one day and say those of us who can pick up lobster pots, which certainly leaves me out of that, is, one crew that works on the really heavy duty stuff and the other crew, I'm not saying that the staking and twining wasn't heavy duty because, wielding those sledgehammers to get some of those stakes in,
Did Public Works do the lobster traps last year?
Carol?
Carol?
Yes, Mike Kloss. He can bring in a truck and he can bring in the backhoe. But we need, if we're gonna do it, anytime, I think from now on, we're gonna have to coordinate with the main Audubon because the plovers have arrived. And by the time of May, they will have been nesting. And we have lobster traps already up. People have pulled them up and they're sitting on the edge of the dune grass now, so.
Carol,
we-
when do they start? Because when we did the twining last year, I think we did a little before, shortly before Memorial Day, and there was a fair amount of twining already done by Audubon. I mean, obviously, letting them do their thing first,
Mhm.
get out there makes a whole lot of sense because that's stuff that we didn't have to do at all.
I
So that would say to me that we probably aren't doing this until shortly before Memorial Day, but giving people plenty of notice to, hey, come on out and help us because we have to get the beach ready for, the season will open on Memorial Day in effect. Would Audubon tend to be out by, the staking and twining that they did, was that well in place? I think it was certainly by the time we started, but we
I
might
would
have.
think so.
Yeah, I think it was. I know it was. I think it was pretty set when we went.
Yeah, it was, and it was a big help.
Yeah.
Well, what are you thinking
Could we
of?
do, I was thinking of May, the weekend before Memorial Day, perhaps, like May 22nd, 23rd.
I like that date.
You
You
do
have
like,
to avoid Mother's Day. One year it was Mother's Day and that was,
Yeah, that Mother's Day is the 8th and 9th. I know that for a fact.
yeah.
So
May
either that
22nd.
Either of those 2 Saturdays.
I'm
Pardon me?
sorry?
Either of those 2 Saturdays, 14th or the 20th, whatever that would be, if it's the 8th, then what is it? That's the
22nd.
15th or 22nd.
Why don't we aim for 15th if Carol thinks that, or can check with Audubon and thinks that maybe whatever staking they're going to put up might already be in place by then. And that way, if we have a rain problem or a weather problem, we can maybe move to the 22nd. But
I like that. Ides of May. Yeah, do May 15th with the 22nd rain date.
okay. Yeah, that's good.
I don't
And
know. that
schedule it for the whole weekend.
Yeah, I think a Saturday, and then but a Sunday, if we don't get done, just people will know that,
Right.
we got to come back and finish it. Yeah.
We need to contact the town, so Mike will be available, hopefully.
I can do that for you if that's, if you like, or how do you want to do that?
Who gets the
That's-
dumpsters? Who got the dumpsters in the past? I'm not sure.
Town did. I believe,
Yeah,
Yeah, I
it's
think
being
that would
sold
come
down.
through Mike. Yeah, I believe.
Okay.
oh, Mike.
Yeah, I think the request went to Lori first and then to Mike.
All righty. Well, who's got the ball?
I'll do that.
You can-
Okay, great. Hey, we got Mike.
You're looking for the 15th?
15th/16th is the start, and then if we have a weather problem, we'd look at the 22nd to the 23rd.
Okay, I'll talk to Lori tomorrow. And what do we want? We want the backhoe last year,
2 years ago.
Right.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow. That's
I'll
right.
contact Maine Audubon because they need to know.
Okay.
Okay, I'll do it tomorrow.
And hopefully they would have their stuff staked by then too. We can kind of give them a nudge.
Well,
Okay.
in terms of our staking and twining, as I understand it, we do not have enough to do it this year. In other words, we have to purchase some more stakes and some more twine.
Right.
Yes. Yeah,
Good.
yeah, we have quite a bit of, most of the stakes we have in my garage. And talking about going further, plus the roof. So we'll need,
Even for not to exceed,
So even if we have some stakes left over, we,
Carol,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
they did 2 items where we do have to have a motion to request the town's permission to stake their property.
okay, I so move.
West End?
At the west end and
I just called them up last time and asked them when we did the East End. Lori said,
Okay.
fine. I don't think we need a super motion.
the Conservation Trust.
I will check with them and let you know if that's not appropriate.
Okay,
Okay.
I think
But
you
they
did
will.
that.
I mean, I think I can speak for them on this and say that they will allow that to be staked.
Okay,
Thank
and I know you had permission from us, the beachfront owners.
Yeah.
Question is on the east end or the west end, and whether there are any properties hands since last summer.
The real estate market, I pretty much got everybody, and everybody was very cooperative.
Are they staking in the 25-foot of people's
It's
property?
up to- Yes, because,
Are they? Okay. Didn't realize they were staking that close. Yeah.
we did that, and nobody's ever challenged signatories.
Very
We-
good.
At least contact them and say,
Put up the money, I believe, before we had the town approval.
Gloves, shovel, whatever they thought they might need to use.
hammering things in. If we could get high school kids who need a community service thing, talk to them about it. Of course, the high
A
school.
lot of people, and I send the notice out for this meeting every month, or that too. So it will
Did
go
we-
out to.
Yeah. Did we
Sure.
have some, what about UNE kids at all? A lot of them might be pretty much gone by then. I'll
It's
talk
the
to,
end of May. They're either going to be in finals or out of here. So
Yeah.
but we can ask them.
yeah, because wasn't somebody, no, it was people from Kennybunk High that were doing a project on, not people from UNE.
No, it's Kennybunk High School and the scout troops and that, and they do a lot of work out at Goat Island as well. There's a couple legal projects that have been going on out there, so they're involved in the town. So maybe they'd like to be, here too. I know they need service hours.
Right. It's a good thought.
Yeah, through.
I'll forget about UNE because you're right, they'll pretty much be gone.
Yeah. Plus,
Well, this would be a great way to get service hours.
Well, yeah, through National Honor Society and so all of those things require service hours. So I will query the high school and I'll put it out and I can put out a notice.
Yep.
Okay.
That's state will travel.
The new email address so that if we want to put that out there as the place to use to respond to whether you can make it, put that on Facebook page or whatever.
Yeah, Richard, if you get me that, at least for sure what the new email is, that's fine. And also, are we assuming this date is a solid or we're going to check on it?
The dates?
Yeah.
I think They're about as solid as we can go.
Yeah, I think so too. I
Okay.
think that the only unknown I see is the town's ability to, get a backhoe or something. But even if we drug all of the traps up to the edge of the rocks and town came through a couple days later with a backhoe, it would work.
I think Mike responded because if you put it,
So you say they don't want us to touch them?
I don't think they do.
Good, that saves my.
I mean, if you want, John, maybe you could, reach out to Mike.
Sure.
But I believe there was an exchange of emails between him and Bob Sherman the last time.
Well, and Mike, between the two of us will,
Okay.
Wow. I don't think it's an issue. I really don't. I think.
Cool.
No, I think should try and sort whether Klaus wants to do it with his own crew.
What's his choice, right?
Yeah, his choice.
Okay,
Okay,
so in the past, just 1 second more. In the past, we've met at the store area. There should be a meeting place, and are we gonna consider water, donuts, snacks, whatever?
Yeah, we did that a couple for beach cleanup and,
Yep.
shortly moved up here. We haven't seen it done that elaborately since then, but
No, I'm just bringing it up because I know that it was in the past, but there should be.
I suppose we could include in the budget something for a couple of cases of.
I thought we had a printed brochure, a colored one.
Oh, yeah, no, I was thinking piece of paper, yeah, I think we're talking the same thing, update
Okay.
the paper, yeah,
Yeah, okay.
sorry.
All right, but what we do need is a motion for an appropriation to do the stickers. And whatever the amount was for the stickers we did last year, and maybe add $100 to it, and ask the selectmen just to appropriate that amount, which is Bethany's cost and the cost to produce the stickers.
But do we want to fold into that some also cost to do the, we're saying, I think I understand people saying we need to do some form of new paper trifolds this year to make available instead of the beautiful printed, gorgeous colored things that we've had in the past, which are much more expensive.
I don't know whether we asked for an appropriation for that last year. I think Lori just
Printed them on the
Did it-
town printer.
Okay.
I'm not sure. We need to check with her, but let's do a motion for the stickers and a request to the selectmen for the equivalent amount of money plus $100 that was spent last year for the stickers.
I so move.
And I
Is there a
second,
second? Kate,
I,
John,
Aye.
Joanne,
Aye.
Carol,
We,
Carol, you're muted.
My dog was barking.
Jen,
Aye.
Mike,
Aye.
and I vote aye. All right. We've already done number 7, which is the spring cleanup. Number 8 is sort of a catch-all of information. We have a new stop sign on Kings Highway at the intersection of Dyke Road and the east end of Kings Highway. I'm sure that Public Works will probably renew the painting on the pavement so it's more visible. I know there've been a couple of complaints, requests that the sign be seasonal, which really doesn't make much sense. We have so many more people here at Goose Rocks in the last few years, and especially this past year. And there's lots of traffic and lots of workmen. most people I've seen have stopped. There's some of them slide through, but most of them stop, and it will be an education for people who are just coming back to Goose Rocks this year, who weren't here when the sign was first put up. But I think it is a safety measure, and we know that we can't do a sign at the end of Dyke Road. One, I know that some of the selectmen would be opposed to that, but practically we would have to lose 2 or 3 parking spaces to do it, and it might not even work then because of the odd intersection that we have. It's not a T intersection.
Richard, just a question on that point, though. I was wondering last summer when I was looking at it, in coming out about equal, level with the general store, there's, I guess, a pedestrian crossway there, and there is seasonally a temporary, it's a yield sign that's in the middle of that. And I've just always been curious, why couldn't that become a stop sign as well? Because again, you've got a lot of traffic, foot traffic going in and out of that particular location. I'm just throwing it out there, and I have no idea what the mechanism is, whether we ask Lori or, ask her to ask. I know the police chief was here and looked at the situation, and I wasn't, involved in that, but it just occurred to me, instead of that being a yield sign that's there from June to Labor Day, could it be a stop sign? So you have a 3-way stop for 2.5 months. And when you have the highest amount of foot traffic and little kids running around and people,
Well, the yield sign is to focus on the crossway, because it's state law that you have to have to stop for pedestrians in the crosswalk.
That's not yield all the time. That's just if there's someone in the crosswalk.
Right. Yeah.
All right, I withdraw my comment. I just still think a 3-way stop there in the height of the summer would be better. But
yeah, well, we can't change the configuration of that intersection.
okay, so
All right, so
on that.
going on, there will be a new email address for the Beach Advisory Committee, and the public can access it on our site. Go to the town site and then go to the Beach Advisory Committee, and it will allow you to have communication with the Beach Advisory Committee. Question is, who should have the password?
And the password, in other words, who should access the site?
Yes, who should access the site when there are emails, and how frequently?
Well,
Maybe the secretary should.
I would
More
suggest,
than one person.
well, yeah, but I still think the chair should have at least the password.
Sure.
Chair and the secretary should have the password, so you have
Yeah,
two.
the password to me is not as important as the belly button that's going to take responsibility to look at it
Right,
and monitor it and pass it on for action. That's the effort. The password's a password. That can change anytime.
okay.
Who's taking responsibility to be the communication individual who's going to look at that and take appropriate action?
Well, I would think it would be the secretary.
Me too.
Yeah, boy, Carol, you said that. That's a real task. Thank
Yeah.
you for if you're willing to step up and do that.
I think it's my job. I
All right.
don't think I would have probably volunteered if I wasn't secretary, but I think
Thank
it's my
you.
job.
Just want to acknowledge that's. Thank you.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. But I think many people should have the password, and we have to put it somewhere.
I think we all should have the password. We all may want to see what's on that site. Is there a problem with everyone on the board having the password, and when the board changes, the password changes?
Okay.
So that's easy. Password's a couple clicks.
Uh, what about having the, one person accessing it and being responsible, and if it's the secretary, and communicating with the other members of the committee as to what's there?
Because
So
when
it's
the,
not,
you need more than one person just to be able to get access when you need access.
Mm-hmm.
Richard, why are we so protective of the password?
Right. I'm not sure why it's such a big deal that we can't have the password.
Yeah, I think
If
everyone
one
should have-
person assumes, if one sort of person assumes the primary responsibility for monitoring and responding and passing along information,
Exactly.
why can't the rest of us just go in and take a peek?
Exactly. In
Yeah.
fact, I think we should.
Works for me.
Me too.
Okay.
So, and that way, again, when the board composition changes, it would probably be appropriate then just to change the password. We
but
update
that
everybody.
would
what
be
it is.
yearly.
Yeah.
So that's what happens
Oh, yeah.
yearly. I mean, it's literally 5 clicks. I mean, you just change the password on the account and you
Okay.
notify people of the new password.
And the town obviously has the password, and one of the reasons we've asked the town to set it up is so that we do not get into the same situation we're in right now, in that that we're,
Hasn't lost the password and has no idea.
Well, seven of us would have to forget it.
Yeah.
I think one of the issues before is that there was no clear responsibility on who was going to go in and be actually responsible.
You bet.
It was kind of like, oh, look, we have an email, here you go, and that was that.
Right.
I know I had the email password, and somehow or another someone changed it. So I mean, there were a couple of us who had the same password, and it just didn't work anymore. So
Well, that's a good point. I don't know how that. I don't know if anybody that has the password that can then change it. That's an IT question. Hopefully, there's
Okay.
just one person who would have the ability to change the password.
I would think the changing of the password would be the responsibility of the town, not
Yeah.
individual board members.
I just hope it works that way. When you have it, depends on how the account's set up. So hopefully it does. It must. It's not a Gmail, right? It's a Kennebunkport.
Yeah, so I would
Okay,
think
good.
it would be someone like Tracy.
Good, whomever. But it's a town system. It's not Gmail or something, right?
No, it's a town system.
All right,
It's not a Gmail.
perfect.
Okay.
Well, we need to- is the idea, the consensus that, first of all, we need to find out exactly how it's going to work, and if the town now has set up a password, and is it okay as far as they're concerned that all of us also have that password, so that we can each look at the account and see what emails or comments or questions have come in. But primarily, the secretary will be primarily responsible for checking it
Right.
once a week.
Right.
Day? I think every day is a little over the top.
No,
Oh, every day's too much.
Yeah, periodically. I mean, responsibly. That's the way to do it. Yeah.
Mike, did you want to?
Yeah, I think what you should do, I really do. I think you can give everybody the password so they can see, but you need to have one person
Yeah.
who can, because you want to prevent anybody from deleting anything or anything else. So you got one person who manages the account.
I agree.
You
I
know,
agree with Mike.
And would that need to be a town person or just, I mean, one person's
Well, I think
responsible?
that if it's going to be Carol, if it's going to be Carol, it'd be Carol. But you don't want, it's like, I do a lot of genealogy. I'm not, and one of the things you have is you have the opportunity to let people look at it, but you also don't want them to manage it, so you can block them out. And but they can look at it. And so we should have one person, I think, that has the ability to look at it and then let people know. But we all can have the passwords and look at it.
Good.
Just one.
Hopefully the town can set it up that way. That's a question for the IT folks in town, if they can set it up that
Yeah,
way.
I think that's pretty easy to do.
Good.
But yeah.
Okay, so somebody,
Mike, do you want to talk to Laurie about it, or would you like me to? what you're suggesting.
As far as setting up, you've
No,
already.
supposedly it's been set up or will be in the next day or two. But the question of
Access permissions.
access permission,
I will
so that
talk.
all of the board members or committee members would have the password to look at it, but would not have the ability to delete or change,
Except for Carol. Carol would have that.
except for
sole
the
authority.
secretary.
I will talk to her along with Mike Claus thing tomorrow.
Okay. Carol or
Bulletin board is
Kate,
up.
you said the bulletin board is already up.
It has been put back up. I just
Cool.
need to dig up the lock and put it back on it. Right now, it's temporarily closed by some wire. There's nothing on it. We will, start posting
Okay.
them as soon as possible.
All righty.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Are you replacing the locks or the locks just aren't on it? Because I have
No,
a key.
lock just isn't on it. We had a problem with it, and the guy who built it for us took it down.
Right.
For the I kept the lock because it was going to his.
Oh, okay. So it'll
Repaired
be
the
the same
problem
lock.
and stored it over winter because I figured we really didn't need it out there being beaten up by the weather and nobody was going to be walking by looking for posting.
Okay, so it will be the same lock with the same keys.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
then
And Kate, are there duplicate keys?
I have one.
Joanne has one. I have one. Do you have one, Carol? And then what's his face? Stedman has one at the store. I never did get it back from him before the store closed for the season. So hopefully it's still Stedman that owns it, and hopefully he still owns it.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure.
If not, the worst thing that happens is we buy another little lock and another round of keys. Not exactly.
I'd covet having our recycling information in there. So can I, who do I speak to get a 8x12 section of it? How does that work? How do people? Great.
Well, just, so far, what we put up last year, Carol did a great little fun graphic thing about the dog rules. We put up agendas for meetings, notices of meetings coming up, and we didn't post minutes afterwards because they're just.
Yeah.
But that's pretty much what went up there, and we need to, probably sit and talk about what do we want to put up there. I've forgotten the exact dimensions, but you can easily get 4, 8x12 things up there.
All right.
And, one of them I still think should be for the dog ordinance because that's something that affects a lot of people.
Absolutely.
I think
And
at the
again-
very top, I had opened up done a front to back posting of the little paper trifold. So we had available for everybody to look at. Here's, if you haven't picked up one at the beach, here's what it says.
Mhm.
What about a notice of the cleanup and staking?
I'm already on it.
You can do stuff like that, things like that. I mean, it's probably not a bad idea to think about, okay, we put up one thing about the, here's the trifold, here's basically all the rules. And then that still would leave room for putting up pertinent notices about things that are going on, like the spring cleanup, like the staking, like need manpower for that, like, something that John wants to post about recycling, et cetera. I think we'll find room for all of that.
Cool.
How is recycling going, John?
So far, pretty well. The real test is going to be the summer.
Right.
In terms of contamination. That's going to be our main challenge. But we're meeting with the realtors who are, many of them who have summer rentals or manage rentals for landlords, and getting their ideas, getting them involved of how we can put educational information in the units, how we can get magnets on the refrigerators and bins in the halls, and hopefully we'll keep our recycling clean. That's our biggest challenge, is to keep the contamination low, to keep it affordable for the town to do.
How are we doing now?
We have not paid a fee yet. We've received a couple warnings, and we've taken some action to try to notify people where we can identify where the contamination came from. And we've got our fingers crossed. We're working towards hoping that the summer is going to not put us underwater.
Yeah.
Hey, John, question on the work you're doing with various realtors. Is that something too that haven't in the past, have we had the beautiful printed brochures with the realtors so that when they, turn over a cottage, they can make sure people have access to the rules of the beach, so to speak? And could we do that with the printed ones? I mean, ask people to do, because I think we've got a broader range of realtors who are involved. I mean, I don't know how we ever get to the Airbnb and VRB or whatever the other one is.
Our challenge as well, right?
Yeah, to get them out there. I mean, certainly leaving stuff at I think the general store had a supply of the printed brochures, I mean, the paper brochures last year. So there are places like that, central locations that we can make them available. But if at the same time you're working with the various realtors, let's,
I will definitely mention again, we're asking that they put it in that welcome package, every
Yeah.
time you come into a place. And it would certainly be appropriate, I think, to have the beach brochure there as well. All across Kennebunkport. As you know, this is going to be Goose Rocks and Cape Porpoise and a lot of other places as well. But to have that beach information makes sense.
yeah, so if,
They're gonna use our beach.
Yep.
yeah, but I mean, I think that makes it even more, the idea of going back to the paper trifolds like we did last summer. The others are so beautiful, but they're a lot more expensive to produce. And I think if we can include something like if realtors would include the paper trifolds in each of their welcome packages, it's at least some effort to try get the, because people really don't have a chance to stand as they're walking out the beach right of way with beach chairs and kids and God knows what coolers. They're not going to stop and read that. So the more we can get it in their hands and in front of their eyes in other ways, it'd be better. Super.
Okay, let me move on. There's been a question, and I guess it's people who don't know Goose Rocks but about the blocking of the access points to the beach with rocks or small boulders, what have you. And just for general information, it's done to protect Kings Highway and the properties across from the beach from the winter storms we've had in the past. When the stones were not there, we've had sand all across Kings Highway, and some of the property owners have been shoveling, had to shovel sand for days. So that's the reason why the entranceways are blocked. The ones that are not are Dyke Road and Jeffries Way. But all of the ones along Kings Highway, the Public Works Department in late fall does put the stones back.
Now.
Pardon me?
And they're gone now. We're opened up this past week.
Were they? Have they been removed? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hope it's not too early.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
There is an election, and I believe the information on the election is going to be sent out this week or early next week, and there are 2 seats up, one beachfront property representative and one backlot, and it's Jim Mulvihill's seat, and he is not running for re-election, and it's my seat, and I'm term limited. So it's an unusual election in that it's only representatives of beachfront and backlot properties that were participated in the litigation and signed the beach use agreement. So it's not everybody in Goose Rocks, not every property owner, but just those who are a part of the beach use agreement. And the letter from the town will ask for nominees, and once the town receives the nominees, they will then have a second mailing as to who's running for the backlot and the beachfront seat, and there'll be a date to return a ballot by mail. And we did receive yesterday from Allison Kenaway a report on the water testing. If you recall, we had Allison and a representative from the state at our meeting, I believe it was in July, and made a presentation. So what Allison has done is to put together a report which talks about what excuse me, what information has been available since July, and what is anticipated in terms of the water testing in this coming season. And I don't, John, do you want to summarize what Allison's report is?
I can. I don't know if I can speak. I can't speak specifically to what Allison had put together. I'm sure part of what Allison has put together is a report that was released by the Maine Healthy Beaches, summarizing the Goose Rocks Beach watershed monitoring over the 2018 to 2019 period. This has been a much anticipated report summarizing the good work of our volunteers that have been collecting water samples. Some of these, I don't know if the same folks have been working with us, but it goes back to 2004. And that data, some of that data is included in the report from the Maine Healthy Beaches folks, specifically Megan Sims and Joe Taft, who have been very deeply involved and working closely with some of us, with Allison, and some interested science geeks that are trying to follow this stuff and to better understand it. It's an excellent report. I believe, Richard, we have agreed to post it somewhere for the public to access it.
Well, what I'm referring to is one entitled Goose Rocks Beach 2020 Water Quality Monitoring Update.
I'm sorry, I cannot speak to that.
Okay, I thought I sent it, and it was an attachment on an email yesterday, because
I'm sure
I
you
received
did,
it yesterday.
I simply assumed that it was the report that came from Maine Healthy Beaches, because that's what I've been looking at.
Okay, well,
So
I mean,
I cannot summarize it for you, sorry.
all righty. The report deals with reporting about the DNA samples and analysis, and the dates and the findings, and there was only a June finding of one positive human DNA, and apparently there was a broken sewer pipe, and that was repaired. And it also includes the water sampling of Colony Beach and Goose Rocks Beach, which is done twice a week during the season, and it indicates the bacteria concentration on each one of those testing dates, and an indication of what is planned for this coming season. So it is a 4-page report from Allison. And could I have a motion to just post this on our town site?
So moved.
The second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're going to request the town to post it, and anyone who is interested, it is a fairly positive result, but there's still issues of contamination that comes from mammals and canines and what have you. But one of the positives, is, at least as I see it, is there was only one DNA that detected human contamination, and they're pretty sure that they traced that to a broken pipe.
John, are you going to need any volunteers for this summer to do water testing?
They will. Allison is hoping to get the same volunteers as in the past.
Okay.
Alrighty. The next item is the proposed dog ordinance. I don't know about any of you. I have not heard any complaints other than one person who did raise an issue with the selectmen and objected to the expansion of the on-leash period from 2 hours to 6 hours in the off season. And I'm not sure exactly. The person indicated, at least as I understand it, in her emails to Lori and in comments to the selectmen, that she walks her dog off leash, but when other dogs are off leash and try to approach her, she puts her dog on the leash. In any case, the selectmen have voted unanimously to put the dog ordinance on the warrants. They will have a public hearing later on in the spring, and then it will hopefully be on the ballot for a vote from the whole town. I don't know if there are any questions from any members of the committee, and if there's anyone in the audience who wants to raise a question about the dog ordinance, please raise your hand electronically, and Dave will tell us.
I've got a couple of raised hands, Richard. First, I have Jerry Fitzgerald. Jerry,
Okay.
you'll be able to speak.
No, it's not actually Jerry, it's Paul. Hey, this was back to the last topic that John raised, and I've read twice the state report, which is, like 100 pages long. It's very, very impressive. It's very, very extensive. I don't know what Allison pulled out in 4 pages, but what John was suggesting is what I read, and that is we continue to have persistent, continuing problems. There are a bunch of recommendations, which are very challenging, and it's a big challenge because it's not quite clear. If it was one leaky pipe that was polluting our beach, it would be simple, but it's not. But the DNA in 2018 was like 65% showed human source, and in 2019 it was down to like 20%. That's much less than 2018. It's a real mystery why that was, but human source, the study points out, the human source DNA is much more threatening to humans than, ducks or geese or dogs or anything, because we're not as impacted. Disease doesn't carry over so easily. So the report really needs to be carefully read by everybody and considered, and there are a bunch of recommendations. For example, the recommendations was that we apply for state grants so that people who can't afford to replace their septic systems would get a grant from the state to do that. The money was available this year. I guess we didn't apply for any. It looks like it might be available for next year. If there's an infrastructure bill coming along that has money for water quality improvements, the Beaver, the watershed that you live near, Richard, that goes into Beaver Pond is just horrible, which dumps into the Little River, which I live by. If infrastructure money is coming along, we should put that whole neighborhood on sewer. Everybody's on septic right now. There are a lot of very good recommendations and very thoughtful. It's the first big comprehensive report in 14 years. And I would love to see the 3-page summary that suggested to you we don't really have much of a problem, but I believe we do. The mouths of the river presents many challenges.
Well, it may be the number of DNA analysis that they did. The one that on June 25th showed 1 positive for human. There were 13 sites that were submitted.
Yeah, that was just one day. 20% for the year of all the ones we did tested positive for human. And the optical scanners, so they did it was a great study. It's been a great 2-year study. They've done a wonderful job. The EPA helped out on this, the state helped out on this, and the town helped out on this. Allison was amazing because they didn't use volunteers last summer because of COVID. And she, basically took it on herself so the data could continue. But there's a lot of data out there. There's no simple answers, but it presents challenges for going forward, and where we should look to be spending public resources in terms of trying to clean up the beach and the mouths of the river. We worked on communication last year, which was great, so that we tried to communicate that the mouths of the rivers were not great to swim in, particularly at low tide, as opposed to the center of the beach, which was pretty clean. The state program reports it sort of all as one, and you think the beach was terrible, and that's not true. So it's very complex. It's a big challenge, and I hope the beach committee continues to work on this.
Well, it's not just the beach committee, and we're talking. If you're talking about replacing the septics, the reason that some areas are on septic as opposed to sewer is the tremendous cost of extending the sewer lines, because there's going to have to be blasting.
Yeah, of course. And the reason we have water, we have septic out of Goose Rocks. Mike, you probably know better. I wasn't here then, but we had a lot of public investment in infrastructure with the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act. And I think that's how the town partially afforded to do that. There was nothing before that. And there may be an opportunity going forward if infrastructure happens.
Well, I don't know. Is there sewer in Kings Grant?
Yeah, it goes all the way. Everything on the 2 bridges, on this side of the 2 bridges, is covered by sewer. And then New Biddeford Road got the extension this past year because of Vinegar Hill. So, but on the other side of the river, it's not extended past the bridge. But the real, your whole, I don't know how many houses would be, are off sewer, but it's a couple hundred. And the report shows that it could be coming from there, but it could be coming farther upstream. The watershed is significant on both sides. It goes into Biddeford.
Yeah.
Well, if you go across Route 9 in the Goose Rocks area, you're going to have all septic. And,
yeah. Well,
And
Everything, when I say the two bridges, I mean the ones right near the beach, unfortunately. You know, it would be great if your neighborhood and everybody by the community house and where Kate lives, everybody was on sewer, but it's not true. It's just not.
well, it would also be great if we were on public water, but KK&W decided to replace the lines and not put them deep enough so that they are year round. They're only seasonal. I mean, they spent a lot of money last year replacing the lines here, but they're shallow.
Oh, wow.
But I would like to echo Paul's concern. I'm working with Allison and UNE on a bacterial study of the whole watershed. And there are continuing issues and things we need to look at. So this story continues.
Well, is it a issue for the Beach Advisory Committee, or is it does it belong to some other committee in the town, or just to the town itself without the selectmen and
So that's a bigger question of who all, I mean, there are at least there are two pieces to the study. One is focused on public health and getting warnings out to people on the beach. That's certainly important to us. To know how to inform people of where there may be a higher risk of bacterial infection, I think is something the beach committee ought to be concerned about and involved in. Then there
we have been, John. And
I know we have. I know we have. No. I know we have. And then absolutely, and very appropriately. And then there's a larger piece to it. You're asking what it is. It has two pieces, and they are connected. They understand what and why that's coming down the rivers is obviously important to better handle and better understand what's coming out of the rivers. And what comes out of the rivers is what affects the beach. So they're all related, and there's more work that needs to be done. That's all I'm saying. And I think Paul's right on in terms of looking for potential sources of money that would let us tackle a potential problem with both stormwater and sewer leakage if that exists, but that needs to still be looked at.
Well, there's also the in the short term, looking at people's septic tanks. There's no requirement in town, as far as I know, about how often you have the tanks emptied, and there is an issue. I know we talked about it with Werner when they were trying to look at whether or not the septic tanks were the problem or one of the problems.
Yeah.
And apparently, unless you know that there is an actual pollution coming from someone's septic tanks, you cannot force them to allow you to
It
test.
has to be voluntary, and these are all certainly hurdles. But again, that's I think outside of the Beach Advisory Committee's purview. But
I think, yeah, right. It's absolutely it is, and the only way, there's some older septic tanks. There's some of the houses that have been here for 30, 40 years, and they're all on septic, and the only way you get a test is if they change hands, and in the closing, it's a requirement to test the septics.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is, in the short run, if we could eliminate the issue of septic tanks polluting, I'm not talking about infrastructure. I'm talking about just testing the septic tanks, and maybe a requirement by the town to like every 3 years you empty your septic tank. It's
3 years. We'll have
Yeah, it might be, but again, that sounds like a good idea. Um,
Well, why are you questioning Kate 3 years? This is,
I thought that sounded way too long. But
well, it depends on how large the tank is and how many people are in the
For
house year
for
round.
residential, that's probably not too long, but
Well, I
that's
mean-
probably reasonable for residential. But
quick
and
question.
we do it every 6 months here, but we got a big tank.
Yeah, well, we do it by trial and error, we found that every 18 months works, it's usually still not even close to full, but having lived with septic in Massachusetts for years, and we just err on the side of caution
Good
because
for you.
Yeah.
the better you take care of that system, the more frequently you empty, the longer that whole big system's gonna last.
No question. And you don't run the risk of poisoning the field, which is obviously the,
Having it back up, which is even,
Mike,
Listen, we're not going to engineer this, folks.
Yeah.
no, we're not.
Why don't we move on?
I mean, I'm not sure what else anybody would want from the committee, because I think, John, you've identified there are really two elements here. And the
Right.
one that the committee is very much, thanks to all the work you and your subcommittee have done. The other, the broader issues that the state report has raised, I mean, other than something, thing from us just saying, we hope the town will pursue whatever it can in regard to that, but I don't even know that that's something for us to do.
I think it's beyond,
Sure.
it's at least a gray area in terms of our responsibility.
Yeah, I think I would agree.
But it certainly affects us because it affects the beach and the quality of life at the beach. So to say that, this is how important it is to us. And that's an obvious statement, but maybe worth making.
Okay, I could go with.
Well, when Paul came on, we were asking for people who wanted to comment on the dog ordinance. Dave, are there any other hands up?
Yes, we have David Stevater. David, you should be able to speak.
I am unmuting. Hello, everybody. How are you?
Hey, David.
David?
Thank you, first of all, for your service. It is great that your time and attention are focused on things that the rest of us aren't thinking about day in and day out. So I really appreciate that. As far
David,
as
I know where you live, but just for the members of the committee, could you just indicate?
Sure thing, Richard. So I'm on Skyline Drive, for Skyline to be exact. So right over next to the community house. We're on septic, so I was actually listening with some interest to the last conversation, even though I know it's not really in the jurisdiction of this group. My question is really simple. I haven't been on these calls for the last couple of months, and I am just curious what actually ended up transpiring with respect to the dog ordinance. What changes actually ended up being made?
Okay.
Do you want to address that?
Yeah. Let me go through, starting from April 1st to June 15th, actually from April 1st going forward to September 15th. From under the new proposal, all dogs, whenever they're on the beach, will have to be on leash. Now, that does take away some off-leash time because the current ordinance says that from April 1st to June 15th, dogs may still be off leash except in various parts of the beach that are at the west end, which was primarily where the plovers were nesting in the past. And if there was a marked nesting area, you had to stay away from that. You still will have to stay away from that. But the bottom line is the plovers, which are protected species, and the town has a responsibility and fairly high potential financial liability if plovers are damaged or killed. So in order to protect them, the plover nesting season starts April 1st, and there actually have been even a few early birds literally this year. And it goes through the end of the summer, essentially. So in order to protect them, we're requiring the dogs be on leash at any time on the beach because they are no longer simply nesting primarily at the west end, which they were for years. They are all over the beach. We've had nests as far east as Jeffrey's Way last year. And then in the summertime, from June 15th to Labor Day, similarly to what's there now, dogs would not be allowed on the beach at all during we've actually given them more time on the beach because instead of being 8:30 that they have to be off and 6 that they are allowed to come back on, now they can stay on the beach till 9. They have to get off from between 9 and 5, but they can come back after 5. So they picked up an extra hour and a half of the daytime being able to be on the beach during the height of the season. And then in the off season, so to speak, the September 16th through March 31st, basically dogs can be off leash. And when I say off leash, I always have to, say that is still remaining under voice and sight control. But they can be off leash except between the hours of 12 and 6. That used to be only 12 to 2 that they had to be on leash so that people who want to be able to walk the beach without being accosted by dogs who are running around loose, or people who want to walk dogs on leash without worrying about their dogs, again, meeting up with unleashed dogs. We felt it was a little bit fairer, particularly as the beach, even in the off season, is becoming more intensively used, to a little balance a little bit more the amount for off leash versus on leash time. So off leash dogs have full use of the beach in the off season from September 16th through March 31st, except for the 12 to 6 timeframe.
And these rules have been approved by the select board?
Yes, the Board of Selectmen, we approved them at the committee. We recommended them to the Board of Selectmen in one of their January meetings. They discussed it and approved it. It was still an open item there so that other people in the public could continue to comment. In one of their meetings, forgotten the exact date. Again, they've approved it. We did a few tweakings to it after it went to the town council. She looked at a couple of things, and really it was definitional issues, a few things where we kind of screwed up on dates or something. So
Sure.
with minor changes, it went forward basically as I've described it to you. And at this point, my understanding is then the next step will be there will be a public hearing, I think sometime in May. I don't have a date on that yet. And anything that is going to be on the town meeting, which will happen in June 8th, I believe is town meeting, we'll have a public hearing sometime in advance of that. Mike, can you speak to that at all, or do you have any time frame on that?
Mike, you're muted.
Phone was ringing. I think it's earlier than May because the town warrant has to be published and the ballots have to be made. So I think it's coming up real soon. I don't know what the exact date is, but I might though.
This is super helpful. I'm only asking because I haven't seen any other information, and it's probably my ignorance that I'm just not, tuned into the right so-called channels. But I'm thinking that the big change to me, especially with the volume of people, although you're right, we were up there last weekend and we're down in Boston the rest of the year, but although we're making plans to be up there more, there were an awful lot of people up there last weekend for the end of March. I mean, there were literally people bringing their entire beach camp to the beach at the end of March, which I was just like literally shocked to see. Now, it was a nice day, but it's like July and March. But the big change is the 8:30 to 9 and the 6 to 5 is a big change. And so in season. And so what I'm wondering about is the communication plan around this, because there are some people that get pretty militant, as you probably know, about dogs on the beach. There's been some conversation with this group about that before. And what I wouldn't want to have happen is dogs start showing up on the beach at 5 and people get very, kind of upset about that when in fact it's now permitted. So I think it'll be very important for this to be well communicated to not just regular, property owners, but everybody at the beach who might have a point of view on this.
David, it is dependent on the voters in Kennebunkport approving the warrant. And as Kate said, the vote, it will be on the ballot, and so everyone in the town has a vote on it.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So it hasn't been approved yet by town meeting. So I guess I'm jumping the gun and assuming it will get approved. Okay,
Yep.
so okay.
David, you got a really good point, though, because we are going to be under a rather tight time frame. Let's assume that, I believe town meeting is June 8th, and I believe the election is like immediately after that. I mean,
No, the first one is the election with the ballot, and that would be.
Okay. But we're still talking, right, is that right before the town meeting? It's sort of around the same time?
No, it's the Tuesday before the town meeting, I believe. And
It is.
I was looking for it. I don't have it in front of me, so.
All right, well,
It probably is the 8th, and the town meeting is probably the 12th.
I think that's about you're right, usually, yeah.
but we're still talking early June, and
We're talking the 8th. It will be on the ballot, and same time when John is running for re-election, he'll be on the ballot on June 8th.
So, but David, your point's well taken, that let's assume, if we assume that the town voters, the town meeting adopts this ordinance, we do have a very short time frame, and that's one thing we'll have to work out, of how are we going to get lots of information out to people. I mean, we talked about having these stickers to put up that give what would be new rules concerning the summertime allowance of dogs on beach. And we'll have to look at the Facebook site and other forms of communication, the bulletin board, whatever. So you're right, we'll have a very short time frame before we really are pretty much inundated with people wanting to bring their dogs to the beach and hopefully wanting to understand the new rules.
Okay, well, I mean, that's really it. I just wanted to make sure that I'm a big fan of communication, so I think it's really key. It won't just be stickers. I mean, the town does a great job with things like the mailing of the parking lot downtown, and the Goose Rock stickers come in that same mailing. I mean, I don't know to what extent the town would be willing to do this, but I think even some kind of mailing to all town residents that alert people to the change. There are people from all over town that come to Goose Rocks, and it's a town, it's part of the town. So I think the town may have an obligation, and we may want to press this to really get the word out through a townwide mailing.
Well, it's already been in the local press, and
also on the website. So, I mean,
with all due respect, there's only a certain number of people that pay attention to the town website and a certain number of people that read the town press. Here in Belmont, Massachusetts, where I live, there are 25,000 people and 10,000 households, and only 1,000 of them now subscribe to the town newspaper. There's actually an alternative, town thing on the web that gets more viewership than the town newspaper. So all I'm saying, and you guys, I don't need to stir the pot anymore on this, but all I'm saying is I just think it's very important that we get, all of us get the word out.
David, we understand the problem. That's one of the reasons, the communication has been an issue, and enforcement has been an issue. The old ordinance was more complicated than the one that's being proposed. So I can't tell you we're totally on top of it, but we know the problem, and hopefully we will solve the communication issue.
Very good. Well, thank you for the airing of my thoughts. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Dave, you had another person
We have Paul once again.
with hand up.
We have Paul once again.
Is there anyone?
Hey, I guess I'm on, so I'm gonna speak. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think some suggest, including David, because he's heard what other people have said, that water quality at the beach is not the purview of this committee. And when we negotiated this agreement with the town, protection of natural resource is front and center in that commitment by the town and the community to protect that beach. And I don't know what is more closely aligned with protection of natural resource as water quality and, I hate to say it, human fecal matter coming down the rivers. And so while it's not polite to talk about, and I'd rather, my property values would improve if I didn't bring this up because I face that river. And I, get in a kayak right in front of my house. But it is the beach committee's obligation to work on this problem and to advocate for the people in the beach use agreement for this problem. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. Dave, there was somebody else for the dog ordinance?
We have Peter Marcus with a hand up.
Peter, could you tell us where you live, please?
8 Belvedere Avenue, right, the house behind the tides. So I'm just, because I'm inferring from what said that this beach ordinance has not yet actually become an ordinance, i.e. as of tomorrow, dogs would still be allowed on the beach under the old ordinance, because it would not be in effect at the moment.
Correct.
Right, and the ordinance does not, the old ordinance and the one that's proposed does not prohibit dogs on the beach except in certain hours of the season. The issue is dogs off leash or on leash.
No, I'm talking about dogs off leash, in the, what I will describe as the pre-season, in either the early morning or the late afternoon, early evening, as you want to phrase it. And I guess the other question would be, to the extent that, because someone even mentioned that there was an issue of enforcement, what is the cost, penalty, whatever would you want for violation?
I'm not sure. I think it is $50, but the police normally give a warning the first time, and then you get on a list, and if you show up again, you get a summons.
No, I was only asking because I know we have a dog and we like to take her on the beach early in the morning to obviously avoid annoying other people at a certain time. And I would say right now, if somebody said to me, if you want to do that, you have to pay $50 a day, I would say, here's my checkbook, thank you very much, and I bring her on the beach every morning.
Well, you're not prohibited from, you're not prohibited from bringing him on the beach.
I'm talking about off leash. I'm talking about giving a dog a chance,
Yeah,
like
well,
their term, to run. I'm just saying, I'm just asking what the penalty was, and also the fact that, especially as like if we plan to come up this weekend, it's not in effect yet. The dog still can be on the beach off leash in the morning and the late afternoon, because this can't go into effect until sometime in early June, when it could be voted on or voted down. But until then, it's not in effect now. I was just checking, that's all.
right.
Right, that it is not in effect now. And the rules right now are your dog can certainly in the Belvedere area happily run on the beach off leash as long as it's under voice and sight control.
Another question.
Okay, and therefore, I just ask one thing. We have already, as I mentioned, it used to be the west end of the beach that was primarily plover nesting area. And it seems awfully early, but there is in fact, has been identified. We've got pictures of a plover at the Dinghy Point area. So even though your dog's enjoying freedom, please watch out.
First of all, I don't think my dog even would ever go anywhere near the grass, let alone into the grass. And second of all, certainly, I'm as other animal conscious as can be, so that would not be a question. And I guess the only comment I would make to this, and again, obviously, this is we don't live there, obviously, but, I've been listening to this whole thing and talking about streets and dinghy points and so on. I've spent at some time in Goose Rocks every year since 1962, when I was 6 years old. I have no idea what a dinghy point is. I have no idea what these roads are. I can work out only because I've seen where the sun rises and sets, what the west and the east ends are. So I understand, obviously, if you live there and you go around a lot, obviously, like I know all the streets around where I live in Massachusetts, but, so when you were talking about there are plovers all over the beach, I'm not even sure where they're talking about. Now, I understand the geography. I'm just saying that terms that have complete and immediate understanding to people who are there may actually be, I don't know what that means to some other people.
Peter, do you know where the Batson River is?
Yes.
Okay.
So I didn't know that was its name, but
The
yes.
far west end. Do you know where Jeffrey's Way is?
No.
Jeffrey's Way is an extension of New Biddeford Road.
Okay.
We've had plovers from the Batson River to Jeffrey's Way last year.
Good. That's all good news. That's
And they're not just in the dune grass. They go from the dune grass to the water. And the pictures that we have of the early arrivals this year, they weren't in the grass. They were in the sand.
Okay. I have never seen a bird, egg, nest, or anything which looked like anything other than believing they were in the grass, but that doesn't mean they're not there. I just haven't seen them.
Well,
fine.
And Peter, one of the issues is the liability of the town.
Or the individual, actually, too.
Yeah.
No,
Pardon me?
absolutely. Any kind of threat to an endangered species is, I'll be honest and say this, I don't even care about the liability of the town. It's a liability to the world.
Okay,
That's why we do this. So yes, we don't want to in any way endanger or increase the danger, or we wouldn't in any way, shape, or form. That is not, and I don't want to do it because it's wrong, not because the fact that the town has liability just makes it even more wrong, but it's wrong whether that was true or not. So no one's questioning that.
So good.
No one.
Thank you. Okay.
All righty. Thanks, Peter. David, is there anyone else?
There is no one else.
Okay, let's move on. Next item is summer meetings and speakers. Why don't we just say we need to think about that? It's not too early to talk about a meeting in July and August, as we've had it in the past. We don't know whether because of COVID, whether we're going to have an in-person meeting as we've had every year except last year. And maybe we would wind up doing it by Zoom, but we do need to think about approximate dates and speakers. Any other business?
I know it's late. I just have one question. Does the town automatically trim the bushes on Kings Highway by the parking spaces so that the cars have as much room as possible? You know where I'm talking, by the street? Because the bushes grow out from the stone wall. And I was wondering if we need to ask the town to trim that, or whether the town trims it automatically, because
That's bittersweet, Jen.
Not kidding.
I don't know the answer to that, Carol. If they do it at the beginning of the season, that stuff just grows again and again. I know parking along the Kings Highway, the east end, it's an issue.
Yes. Well, I was wondering if we could help people by trying to solve that because it's so difficult to get by driving there and the cars, the bushes are there, they stay out farther into the road. I don't know. It's just a thought.
You trim it with Roundup.
Speaking of trimming things, and this,
I don't think so, John.
I got a question in terms of the how-to. It's not down on Kings Highway, but the intersection of New Bedford and Winter Harbor, which there's a lot more traffic coming up New Bedford these days, and there's a V there and a plot of land, and there's no structures on it, but there's a lot of bushes, and it's bad enough now. I can sort of see through those bushes with no leaf on them to find out if there is in fact somebody coming up New Bedford, as I have to merge into it, yield to go in there. But boy, and when those bushes are in leaf, it's a real safety hazard. Is that something to just mention to bring to Lori's attention, and she can pass it on to Public Works?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that's reasonable. A lot of people from the beach take that, so I think that's a real safety issue. Yeah.
It really is. So,
Yep.
all right.
A line of sight. It's a line of sight at a merge. That's critical stuff.
Yeah, and it's only a yield sign as well.
Oh yeah, that's needs to be done.
All right, I will certainly call her or send her an email about that and ask her to see if the powers that be or whoever it is in the town could take a look at it, because it's tricky.
Another call for Roundup. Sorry.
Anything else? Okay, next meeting. What's your pleasure?
We got a lot to still figure out. What about, do we want to do something? The election won't take place. I mean, for the two seats, the back lot and the beachfront seat won't take place until sometime in May. So we usually have the first meeting with the new board, so to speak, is in June, correct?
Yeah, the terms go from
June to June.
Go through June.
Okay. So probably
usually the first meeting after the selectmen designate their representative.
Okay.
So would that be July then, right? Is that right?
Yeah, but it is
Depends if they get it done in June.
yeah.
All right, but
Well, let's deal with, do we need a meeting or want a meeting between now and June?
Yes.
yes, I think we do. I hate to say it,
Okay.
but we do.
Okay, so
May.
tell me approximately when, because we have to request an opening with David and Mike to handle the Zoom.
Wednesday, May 19th.
Well, wait a minute though. How about, that's very specific,
On a
Joanne.
date, you got a date.
Something in the earlier part of May, which would be about 6 weeks out. So we make sure in case there's anything else we need to do to get this, our big project in May is the cleanup and the staking.
Yeah.
Wednesday, May 5th.
Well,
The week of first week of May, first full week of May. Let's see what they're free.
First or second week of May,
Yeah.
First week of May.
preferably. Okay.
okay. Sure, that's the week of the 3rd and the 10th.
Yep. So 8th through the 7th weekday. Yep.
So it'll depend on whether or not there are other meetings, planning board, selectmen, what have you, and whether there's an open date. So
Right.
I will,
Richard,
pardon me?
did you say May 5th?
If that works for you, Dave.
No, we can't pick a date.
Okay.
Now, you
I
can
thought
pick a
specific
week.
date had been mentioned, so I thought I would tell you that.
You know, the week
Nice,
of
Joel.
the week of the 3rd or the 10th is the, you know,
Perfect. Yeah, it would be our preference.
yeah,
Sometime.
and I will ask for a couple of 3 dates, and I'll send them out to you, and we'll pick the one that we have enough people to have a quorum. Okay, anything else?
No. Motion to adjourn.
A second. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi,
Good night, everyone.
Good
Good
night.
night, all.
Thanks.
thank you.